Alright, so when you're jumping into Abiotic Factor and building your character, traits are where things get really fun. You've got two types to work with, positive and negative. Positive traits are basically little buffs that make your survivor stronger, smarter, or just better equipped to handle the chaos. The catch? You'll need enough starting points to grab them. That's why picking something like the Summer Intern is a clever move. It gives you a lot more points to play around with, which means stacking up on some of the best traits right from the start. Now, negative traits are a whole different story. Most of the time, they're kind of brutal and honestly not worth the headache. But if you're the type who loves a challenge, they can spice up your run while also freeing up some points to snag an extra positive trait. It really comes down to your playstyle. Some traits are perfect if you're planning to fight tooth and nail, while others are more about making life easier back at base. Either way, getting the right combo can completely change how you experience the game. I'm quickly moving on to the video. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. Lead Belly is one of those traits that can completely change how relaxed you feel while playing Abiotic Factor. Normally, drinking dirty or irradiated water comes with risks that can make survival stressful. With this trait though, you can sip from just about any water source without worrying about poisoning or radiation damage. It takes a huge weight off your shoulders, especially if you are still figuring out the basics of the game. The cost of this trait is 8 points, which is not the cheapest option out there. Some jobs will not even be able to pick it up unless you first balance it with a negative trait. But here is the thing. For beginners who just want to enjoy the game and not get stuck constantly worrying about hydration, this is an absolute lifesaver. It makes the whole experience smoother and lets you focus on exploration and fun instead of stressing over every water bottle you find. Now, is it worth taking a negative trait just to grab this one? Honestly, no. The downsides of negative traits can cause bigger headaches than they are worth. A smarter move is to choose a job that naturally allows you to pick up Lead Belly without any compromises. That way, you get all the convenience and peace of mind with none of the unnecessary drawbacks. For players new to Abiotic Factor, this is one of the best traits to try out right from the start. Inconspicuous is one of those traits that feels almost too good for how cheap it is. For just 4 points, you get enemies noticing you at half the normal rate, which is a massive advantage if you like staying under the radar. On top of that, you get a solid +2 boost to your sneaking skill, which stacks beautifully with jobs that already lean into stealth. It is basically a package deal for anyone who wants to play like a ghost in Abiotic Factor. The beauty of this trait is how flexible it is. Since it only costs 4 points, you do not have to juggle any negative traits just to fit it into your build. No matter what job you pick, this one is within reach, which makes it incredibly beginner-friendly. You can pair it with jobs that already improve sneaking, and suddenly you are slipping past enemies like they are not even there. It is simple, but it is effective, and sometimes that is exactly what you need. For players who want to fully commit to a stealth playstyle, Inconspicuous is a must-have. It saves you headaches, gives you a head start in sneaky builds, and keeps enemies off your back longer than most traits can. Even if you are not planning to go completely stealthy, having this in your toolkit can make exploration safer and fights less stressful. It is one of the best value traits you can grab, and honestly, it feels like a no-brainer for almost any new character. Buff Brainiac is one of those traits that might not sound flashy at first, but it is way more useful than it gets credit for. With this, you can carry 15% more weight than other players, and even get a +1 boost to strength. Now, strength is not usually at the top of the must-have skills list, but anyone who has ever run out of inventory space mid-run knows how frustrating it is. This trait makes sure you are hauling more without hitting that annoying encumbered state. What makes Buff Brainiac really shine is how cheap it is. At just 4 starting points, it is super easy to slot into your build without sacrificing much. Most jobs can grab this trait and still have room for another one, or even 2, so you do not feel like you are wasting points. It is the kind of trait that works quietly in the background, always helping, without demanding your whole build revolve around it. For players who love looting everything in sight, or simply want the peace of mind of extra carrying space, Buff Brainiac is a fantastic pick. It is not the trait that will make your character flashy, but it is the one that keeps your run smoother and less stressful. More loot, fewer trips back, and no need to ditch items you wanted to keep. This trait just makes the game flow better. Thick-skinned is one of those traits that pays for itself almost immediately. For only 3 starting points, you get a 50% lower chance of suffering bleeding injuries. That might not sound dramatic at first, but if you have ever been stuck with bleeding mid-fight, you know how annoying and dangerous it can be. This trait cuts down those risks and lets you stay focused on the fight instead of scrambling to stop the bleeding. Where thick-skinned really shines is in melee combat. Players who like to get up close and personal are the ones who will most often deal with bleeding injuries, so this trait becomes a lifesaver. It allows melee fighters to push forward with confidence, knowing they are much less likely to get slowed down by a status effect that could ruin the momentum of a fight. If you are the type to wade straight into the action, this one is a no-brainer. Even if melee is not your main playstyle, the truth is you will end up in close-quarter scrapes whether you plan to or not. Enemies will rush you, and sometimes your ranged weapon is not enough to keep them back. For just 3 points, Thick-skinned gives you an affordable layer of insurance that can save you in unexpected situations. It is cost-effective, practical, and highly recommended for any frontliner, or really anyone who wants to worry less about bleeding in combat. Self-defense is one of those traits that looks like it is strictly for melee players, but that is not really the case. For 5 starting points, you get a +3 boost to all melee weapons, which is a huge jump in effectiveness. Even if you are not building around melee combat, this gives you a reliable fallback option when things get up close and personal. And trust me, in Abiotic Factor, enemies will find their way into melee range sooner or later. For melee-focused players, this trait makes an already strong build even stronger. That +3 bonus makes every swing hit harder and helps you deal with enemies faster, which means fewer chances for you to get tagged with nasty status effects. It is straightforward and powerful, giving melee players the consistency they want when trading blows. If you are going for a frontliner role, it is hard to go wrong with this pick. But here is where self-defense gets really interesting. Ranged players can actually get even more value from it early on. Being able to finish off weakened enemies with a melee weapon saves ammo, conserves resources, and gives you breathing room when enemies close the gap. It is the perfect safety net for ranged builds, especially in the early stages of the game when your arsenal is still limited. All in all, self-defense is one of those versatile traits that works well no matter how you prefer to play. The Fanny Pack is easily the king of quality of life traits in Abiotic Factor. For 10 starting points, the most expensive trait in the game, you get 2 extra hotbar slots. That might not sound like much on paper, but in practice, it is huge. More hotbar slots mean faster access to weapons, tools, and healing items, and they also expand your overall inventory space. It is the kind of convenience that makes everything else in the game flow better. What makes this trait so good is that it never stops being useful. Early on, those extra slots give you flexibility when you are still building your kit, and later in the game, they make juggling all your gear far less stressful. A lot of traits shine in specific situations or playstyles, but the Fanny Pack is universally valuable. No matter how you play, those extra slots always feel like a blessing. The big downside, of course, is the cost. At 10 points, only 2 jobs can pick it up outright, while the rest would need to balance it with a negative trait. For new players, that trade-off might not be worth it, but for anyone who wants maximum convenience and long-term value, the Fanny Pack is one of the best investments you can make. It is expensive, yes, but once you have it, you will never want to play without it. Wrinkly brain meat is one of those traits that feels almost broken for how cheap it is. For just 4 starting points, you get a flat 20% boost to all experience gains across the entire game. That means everything you do, fighting, sneaking, cooking, building, sprinting, levels up faster. It is like having a permanent head start no matter what playstyle you choose, and that makes it ridiculously valuable from the very beginning. What makes Wrinkly Brain Meat so powerful is its universality. A melee-focused tank will see their melee, fortitude, and first aid skills shoot up quicker, while builders and explorers will enjoy faster progress in cooking, constructing, and beyond. No matter what role you are filling in Abiotic Factor, this trait makes you better at it sooner. You are essentially investing in your future power, and the payoff never stops. To really put it into perspective, that 20% boost means you are getting a free level for every 5 levels you would normally grind. Over time, that adds up to a massive advantage that compounds the longer you play. For only 4 points, Wrinkly Brain Meat is not just a good pick. It is hands down one of the best traits in the entire game. If you can grab it, you absolutely should. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.